Here's how to use the VA EDRP program. This is the Education Debt Reduction Program. This is a program that's been around for a little while, but it was not nearly as generous in the past as it is today. Congress very recently, in the middle of 2018, changed the amount that you could receive for this VA EDRP program from $120,000 cumulatively for 5 years to $200,000 for a 5-year period. Now, according to all the documents that I've been able to find on this program, it is tax-free, meaning that you do not have to pay taxes on this contribution, this reimbursement that you receive from the VA. This is designed to recruit people in very difficult to recruit and retain positions. Now, when you're applying for a position with the VA, if you have access to the EDRP loan repayment program, it should say that on the application materials. If you don't see it, then you need to discuss it with HR prior to agreeing to the employment offer, because you want to make sure that that's on the final offer letter. Otherwise, you might have a harder time getting it later, right? So a lot of these programs will specifically state that they're offering, this education debt reduction program, the EDRP program. Now, what can you do when you're trying to get that benefit, but you also potentially qualify for the PSLF loan forgiveness program? So this is really interesting, and this is just a classic example of why student loan policy is so messed up. Because you've got the Department of Veteran Affairs, which is in its own silo, and then you have the Department of Education, which is in its own silo, and they're not talking to one another at all. So here's why this is a problem. The PSLF program is a 10-year program, and that starts when you're in residency if you manage it right and hire a group like us to figure out exactly how to set everything up correctly. So in other words, you're paying a income-driven repayment program for 10 years, but you could easily leave training, leave residency or fellowship with anywhere from 3 to 7 years towards that 10 years of payment credit. Now, when you go to work for the VA, a lot of times you go to work for the VA when you're an attending. So most physicians really should have 3 to 7 years worth of credit that they've set up ready for the PSLF program when they become an attending with the VA. So that's kind of an interesting situation to be in, because the VA program is a 5-year program. So in other words, if you make payments based on your income for, only 3 to 7 more years, basically, depending on how long your training was with the VA, you could get the rest of your loans forgiven tax-free if you end up, qualifying for the PSLF. Now, the VA is obviously a qualifying job for public service loan forgiveness. That's the program where if you make 10 years of cumulative payments based on your income, then you get the balance of your loans forgiven. So thinking about this in terms of how to put the two programs together, you can get reimbursed this money at the end of the year, and the VA just wants to see proof that you used it on your loans. So for this EDRP program, you could reimburse yourself for payments made under something like the pay-as-you-earn or revised pay-as-you-earn programs. And that is money that would be able to not be spent just out of your pocket. So that is actually a real positive reward. Now, the money that you're paying extra towards your loans, if you're going also for public service loan forgiveness, really that's kind of wasted money. Now, you don't necessarily want to view it that way, because it kind of reduces the risk of PSLF, right? It reduces kind of the anxiety level, because you're seeing your loan balance fall. But you also want to make sure that your loan servicer does not put you into paid-ahead status on your loans, because then you would create problems with getting that 10 years of cumulative payment credit towards PSLF if you're trying to go for both programs. Really, I see this VA program being an excellent program for people that have less than $200,000 of debt. And it is a decent program to do even if you have more than that. You just have to be very careful in how you manage it, because you want to make sure that you're getting reimbursed with your student loan income-driven repayment amounts that you're making on your loans, so you can get the max benefit of this program, as well as pairing it with the public service loan forgiveness program. Hopefully, the people at the VA and the people at the Department of Education realize that they've created two redundant loan programs that really are very similar, and they would create a way to make these programs complementary versus more of a really complicated substitute that takes someone who's done a lot of student loan plans hours to understand and explain to you. Unfortunately, it's pretty complicated, so if you are looking at accepting a VA loan repayment program, you want to make sure that it's not taxable. If it is taxable and you're going for the public service loan forgiveness program, what you're effectively doing is just creating extra income that you're going to have to pay 10% of to the government, because the government basically takes 10% of what's on your tax return for student loan payments. So in that case, you could actually be receiving money from the VA, but even losing money as a result of getting money that you have to use towards your principal payments, since the PSLF program has no limit on what they'll forgive tax-free. So it's pretty complicated, but if you're going for the VA EDRP program, just know that you want to make sure that you don't get your loans put into paid-ahead status, and you also need to see if you could utilize the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program to benefit. Other VA programs are not necessarily as generous, so it sometimes can need to be a case-by-case basis in terms of what you're being offered. But make sure if you're taking a job with the VA that you ask about the EDRP program, because it could get you out of debt much sooner. And if you're trying to figure this stuff out and you're really confused, reach out to us and consider hiring us for a student loan plan, studentloanplanner.com/help.